In this video, I'm going to tell you about why I'm changing my mind about Warcry. So let's just, right off the bat, understand that I don't hate Kill Team now. That's absolutely not what this video is about. This is more of an idea of a shift for the positive than any kind of shift for the negative. You know me, I like to be positive generally. But so when Warcry was first released, which is going on almost a year ago now, I looked at it and I thought, man, these models look pretty great. Some of them, of the kind of chaos warbands that they released, were not to my aesthetic style, not necessarily something I was interested in looking at too much, but they were well sculpted, they were well done. On the other hand, Iron Golems, I thought were pretty awesome. Corvus Cabal, also pretty awesome. Some of the other ones are kind of growing on me, but the idea basically was that I was just not super duper jazzed about the overall whole line of like 6 different warbands that were available. The terrain looked great, but the game itself seemed a little simplistic, and I just thought, well, I mean, what about all the shooting? What about all the cool, fun gunfire and ranged attacks that I get to do, with Kill Team? Kill Team has done a lot for my hobby over the last, at this point now, 2 years. It was released in, I think, July of 2018. I was kind of slowing down on 40K in general because of the big army size and things like that. Obviously, 40K is doing better than it's probably ever done before, but for me, I like skirmish games. I like little bits of this and a little bit of that, and shorter games and on a smaller board and all that stuff. It's not for everybody, but it's for me. And obviously, as these other skirmish games sell pretty well, it's for other people as well. So the concept of Kill Team, where I could build some Tyranids that I've never done before, I could build some Death Watch that I've never done before, all that kind of stuff, super jazzed. I really liked the shorter games, the smaller board. Everything about Kill Team really, really spoke to me. I made a bunch of videos about it, obviously. And then, about a year later, Warcry came along, which to me at first was like, cool, now we're going to have a Kill Team version of Age of Sigmar. Close. The big difference between Warcry and Kill Team is that Kill Team is designed to use 40K models, whereas Warcry came with a bunch of model sets already included in the main box, plus there were other ones that were released. And it wasn't for kind of almost like a little while that they started going, oh yeah, by the way, you can also play with some of your Age of Sigmar stuff. So it was a different animal. It wasn't just taking the stuff that was already out there on the shelves. It was introducing all kinds of new stuff, and then eventually saying, oh, and by the way, if you want to play with the stuff on the shelves, here's some cards you can buy so you can start playing with your Night Haunts and your Stormcasts and your whatevers. So it's a different animal in that fashion. And I got to be honest, at first, I was a little put off by it because of that reason. And then I started watching a bunch of battle reports because I wanted to get involved. I mean, I read the book, went through it, and but I have a hard time picturing how a game works in my mind until at least I either try to stumble through a game myself. I've talked about how it's best to try to play a game and then reread the book. Pachow. But watching battle reports can also kind of help as well. You read the book, you watch the battle reports, things start to make a lot more sense, and the book starts to make a lot more sense. That's kind of the way it works. And as that happened, I started looking at it and going, this seems really simplistic to me, and I sort of didn't like that concept at first. As time has gone by, and I've started to get more involved with Warcry and trying it out, I've started to see, I think, what some people started to see after the release of Age of Sigmar. There were a lot of people after Age of Sigmar came out about 5 years ago that said, this game is incredibly simplistic now. It's only 4 pages long. What are you doing? You can't do that. And then over time started to see the way that the game was designed to be a little bit more, like the location and the placement is so much more important than it ever was before to some degree. Like, it's really important where you place things, and you can't write rules about strategy as much. You just basically have to build this rule set, and hopefully the people start to understand it. And as you've seen, Age of Sigmar tournaments grow and grow and grow, and the popularity of the game grow. Obviously, it's been picking up. People have been understanding how the game works now. Plus, they've come up with a second edition and all that kind of stuff. But with Warcry, I kind of had that same trip when I first looked at it. I'm like, it seems really simplistic, and that's kind of weird to me. And then as I started to watch it more, I started to get the hang of it a little bit more. And as I've started to get more involved, I'm really starting to enjoy the play style a little bit more in some situations than I am even in Kill Team. I've been a sci-fi guy for the most part. I still also like fantasy, but I've always mostly been a little bit more sci-fi oriented. So Kill Team, again, was another way that it really spoke to me. And I love the concept of shooting and doing a lot of that stuff. But as I've been playing more and more Kill Team, I've been finding that a lot of the games end up basically just being two forces sort of shooting each other and then eventually trying to stand on some objectives. And maybe that's just the people I play with. Maybe it's just my own personal play style. I get that. But the thing about Warcry is that you can't just sit there and say, well, I'm going to ready that guy and shoot again. The next turn, I'm going to ready that guy and shoot again, because you don't have that option. It's about getting close to people. There are some short ranges on some, creatures and different units in Warcry, but for the most part, it's all about placement and moving and getting to where you need to be and getting around the terrain, getting over the terrain, jumping across the terrain. I really love the concept of being able to do all that kind of stuff. And it really kind of interests me the way that the game is a little bit more almost tactical because of the chaos. And when I say chaos, I don't mean like, the chaos forces. I mean just the constant scrum of running around and moving these guys and then this one and then that one. And it just really kind of speaks to me at this point right now in my hobby career. I thought for a bit that maybe it had something to do with what we call shiny syndrome in at least wargaming. It's in all kinds of different types of gaming, I think. It's technically something that runs many people's lives. But shiny syndrome is when you're doing a thing and you're really enjoying it, and then a new thing comes along and you're like, ooh, shiny, and then you forget about this thing and you start doing that thing. And at first I thought, well, maybe that's what it is. But then I started realizing it's been nearly a year since this game came out, so I don't know that this is shiny syndrome. If this was shiny syndrome, I would have done it probably in August of 2019. All of a sudden, immediately just stopped playing Warcry or stopped playing Kill Team, and then immediately started jumping into Warcry. And it's been a very slow slide into Warcry and getting more and more interested, starting to finally paint the terrain and all that kind of stuff. You've seen some videos and things like that. Being able to start digging through my Age of Sigmar stuff and deciding, okay, well, what kind of forces can I build outside of the normal Chaos Warbands that they've come up with? The fact that I can bring my Blight Kings into this game is really exciting to me. I'm really looking forward to it. And the other unit that they get to have in that army is the big Pusgoyle, whatever, Blightfly thing, which I've always wanted to paint at least one, if not a couple of them. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. I really enjoy being able to bring in some of those groups and be able to, again, just do that buffet thing that Kill Team really, really struck me with, where I was able to be like, I've never done Necrons before. Here's a couple. I've never done Grey Knights. Here's some of them. Now I can be like, I've never really done, I own, Stormcast, but I've never run an army of them, and I've never really painted more than a couple that were in, Ultima Underworlds. Warhammer Underworlds. I don't know why Ultima Underworlds is stuck in my head, but anyway, the idea basically that I can take bits and pieces and put these together and make these fun little armies and just do a little bit of Skaven. Who gets to do a little bit of Skaven if you're playing normal, Age of Sigmar or anything like that? Generally not so much. So I really love that concept. It is the same thing as Kill Team in that aspect, and I think that's also a huge draw for me into looking at Warcry. Now, like I said, this does not mean I'm going to stop playing Kill Team. I am certainly not. I'm going to be eventually doing more Kill Team battle reports, hopefully up here in the studio once people can get together and hang out a little bit more. My next my next battle report will actually be a solo play battle report, so you'll see more about that on the channel soon. But I've really been energized in Warcry recently because of the new waves of cards that have come out. You're just seeing more people starting to play it. I was on the Warhammer Weekly show with Vince and Tom. As I'm filming this, it was last night, and we had a great conversation about what they're doing with it, kind of where it's going, how it's different from Kill Team, not just in tactics and play, but also in organized play and campaigns and narrative and things like that. If you want to watch that, you should definitely do so. Pachow. It's just a game that I'm finding very interesting. I'm looking back now at my stuff, all my Age of Sigmar stuff, and I'm looking at like a Terrorgeist and going, okay, well, cool. I can use, with mercenaries and monsters, I can decide to fight against Terrorgeist and maybe add it to my warband. Or, I've got other pieces that I can add in for mercenaries and things like that, I own this model, I want to paint it, or I have painted it, now I have a use for it because maybe it doesn't get used in my Age of Sigmar as much as I would like, either because of weird points costs or things like that. That's, I think, another benefit to both of these games, Kill Team and also Warcry, and that is, if a model is not great in, let's say, 40K, people don't take it very much. It's a good model, it's a cool model, it's interesting, but it's either over point costed or it's just not effective or there's some sort of whatever. Very frequently, those models then turn out to work really well in the skirmish game. And I think that that's maybe a conscious thing that Games Workshop is doing to say, like, look, we think this model's cool. We also want to sell more of it. Nobody uses it in their army because of reason X. So let's give it cool rules over here in this other game, and then people will use it. And for me, that's a benefit because I like to be able to use cool-looking models and build cool-looking warbands. Again, I'm all about warbands, so I was kind of surprised initially when Warcry did not strike my fancy as much as I thought it might. But it's grown on me and it's moved into this direction. So you'll probably see some more content on the channel about it. Like I said, I'll definitely hope to do a battle report with it soonish. I'm trying to get my wife kind of involved in Warcry a little bit. She loves the Gloomspite Gits, which I just picked up from my local game shop, actually on the way here to the studio. So I'm looking forward to these blokes. And I just want to get these things out on the board and play a different style of game. And again, like I said, don't hate Kill Team. Not going to stop playing Kill Team, but I definitely am finding myself a lot more interested now in more Warcry.